It's Monday, April 6, 2020. You know, there was a movie, I think it came out back in 2013. It was called Assault on Wall Street. And it was a really good movie. If you get a chance, check it out. It was about this guy whose wife died. He lost all of his investments, lost his job, lost everything. And he basically went out and took his vengeance on his broker, people on Wall Street, the big bankers, all this stuff. It was and I'm not condoning any of this. I'm not telling anybody to do that, but it was a really, really good movie. But what we're seeing today in real life is an assault on Main Street. Wall Street is assaulting Main Street. Dow Jones today was up over 1,600 points. Now let me ask you, are you in a better place today because the Dow Jones is up over 1,600 points? Is the small business owner in America better off today because the Dow Jones is up over 1,600 points? Who is buying today? I think we know the answer to that. It's the Fed, the buyer of last resort. People are broke. They're now panicking. We're seeing bank runs in some areas now where people are getting very, very nervous. We're seeing soldiers on the streets of America. Supposedly, the hospitals are packed. Dow Jones up over 1,600 points today. Did this help you? Absolutely not. This is an absolute assault on Main Street. And I think what we're going to see with these small business loans, many small businesses are not going to get these loans. These $1,200 stimulus checks are just going to be crumbs for people. What we're seeing is we're seeing corporate America just eat up the mom and pop small business, eating it up. The small mom and pop restaurants, they're eating up the competition, the small retailers. Look, it's all going to be about big box stores. It's all about Amazon. It's about the Costco's. It's about the Walmarts. It's about the McDonald's, the Taco Bells, the Burger Kings, the Jack in the Boxes. It's all about these big corporations eating up the competition. And we're watching it take place right now, right before your very eyes. And this is definitely a new America. CNBC today, many Americans say those $1,200 stimulus checks won't be enough. What it would take to get more money. That's the title of this article on CNBC. Remember, debt is a danger. It is control. The more they can get you in debt, just like these small businesses, they're not going to get bailed out. They're going to get loans. The question is, what if these businesses go out of business? What are these banks holding as collateral if they go out of business? Absolutely nothing. The Fed is buying all this debt. In fact, at this point, it looks like they want small business to go out of business because they want to erase the competition. They want to put people into debt. They want to put small business into debt because this is giving the big corporations, this is giving Wall Street control. 63% of respondents to this survey in this article said they will need another stimulus check within 3 months. If we are coming out of the strongest economy we have ever seen, if we're coming out of a so-called booming economy and people need another $1,200 within 3 months, these people were already in extremely bad shape. 16% said they will borrow from family or friends. 15% said they will sell assets. 15% also said they will apply for unemployment benefits. 14% said they will withdraw money from the retirement accounts, and 10% said they will borrow money from their bank. So all this is creating is more debt. It's creating more control by these financial institutions and these banks and the government. I mean, just think what we're seeing right now where the government is going to hand you out $1,200. Is it going to be once a year, once every 3 months, 4 times a year? This is where we're living today, where the government now is handing out these crumbs to people. Wow. They have frozen the entire economy, not allowing people to make a living, driving small business out of business. very scary times, and this is reality. This isn't fear mongering. This isn't to scare you. This is what's really happening in the United States of America right now. I think our grandparents would be rolling over in their graves at this point. Zero hedge today. Banks to make risk-free killing on small business bailout. Fed will buy payroll loans issued by banks. We look at the servicing costs. The fees vary from 5% for loans under $350,000, 3% for loans under $2 million, and 1% for loans greater than $2 million. This means that banks stand to earn as much as $17.5 billion and $10 billion if we assume that the average rate is 3%. So they're going to earn anywhere from $10 to $17.5 billion with this small business bailout. So the banks are going to take no risk whatsoever. All they're doing is putting up a website where people can go and apply for loans that are going to be sold right back to the Federal Reserve. And remember, these banks are borrowing money between 0 and 1%. So they're going to earn 5%, 3%. They're going to earn more money on service fees, etc. Last week, Baltimore residents were storming their banks to get the money out. Baltimore City. People in Baltimore City know something is up. This is lower middle class, but they know something's up. They see the National Guard on the streets. Everybody is now losing their jobs over there in Baltimore. People are freaking out. And so what do? They storm the banks, they get their money out because of this uncertainty. These people in Baltimore see that something is wrong. They're looking and reading the writing on the wall. Unrest is coming. They see it, they know it, get the money out of the banks. They've been watching their 401ks crash, their 401ks crash. They're watching the news, and they know that this recession is here. And the question is, when does this turn into a depression? Does it turn into a meltdown? People aren't going to wait to find out. They're getting to the bank, getting the money out right now. A lot of people email me on a daily basis about money in the bank. Look, I'm not a financial advisor, but I have very little money in the bank, just enough to pay the bills. I do not trust the banks, okay? This is why we're in the situation we're in. The banks are corrupt. They are a criminal organization. And, people go, what can I do to change anything? Well, one thing you could do is probably get out of these big banks and go deal with a local bank. Take your money out. I mean, we are giving the power to these financial institutions and these banks by lending them our money. So I think it makes a lot more sense to pull your money out of these big banks and go to a local bank and not keep all of your money in the bank. Last month, it was Midtown Manhattan and the Hamptons where people were running to those banks, wealthy people running to those banks, cashing out everything they had in those accounts. At one point, one of those banks ran out of $100 bills. And I can tell you, just in my area, a couple weeks ago, my bank ran out of $100 bills, could not pay in $100 bills. So something is definitely going on. So whether you're lower middle class or you live in the Hamptons, people are going to the bank and they're getting cash out. CNBC today, what to expect if you have a 401k loan and you lose your job. According to Vanguard, 2019 How America Saves report, 13% of 401k savers have an outstanding loan. This is something I was not aware of. It really makes you think about how much debt is out there and how much debt the typical American has, borrowing money from their 401ks, living off of credit cards, rent payments, car payments, mortgages, student loan debt, a Macy's card. I mean, there is so much debt. This is going to get extremely ugly. If you lose your job, there's a good chance your plan will either require you to repay the loan quickly, or will end up reducing your account balance by the account owed and consider it a distribution. Most of these people will never be able to pay this money back, the money that they borrowed on these 401ks. So We've got people borrowing out of the retirements now. We've got people borrowing from their mom and dad, from their friends, living off of credit cards. This is really, truly a very dark time here in America. And look, we're only 4 weeks into this. 4 weeks. Another article today, millions of applicants, but only 100 loans dispersed in latest small business bailout shock. Bank of America has received 177,000 applications for some $32.6 billion in emergency liquidity, but so far only 100 of these loans have been dispersed. We're now watching this democracy turn into a bankocracy. The banks now decide who survives and who doesn't. And if you don't have a relationship with that bank, if you don't have a connection with that bank, you may be in very big trouble. What about these small businesses being told to be eligible? You can't fire anyone right now. If you do, you won't be eligible for the loan or the grant. There are companies out there that are going to have to downsize in order to survive. I've spoken many times in videos where this is the time to be small. If your small business has 15 people, what if you need to cut 3? What if you need to cut 5 people in order to survive? I mean, this is the time to be small. People are going to lose jobs. Businesses are going to have to downsize. They're going to have to trim in areas in order to survive. And this is forcing businesses, in order to take these loans or these grants, they're not going to be able to reduce employees. Otherwise, they're ineligible for this money. And that pretty much guarantees many of these small businesses will fail because they cannot carry X amount of people in this economy. When the dust settles and things open up again, it's not like there's going to be a line out the door at Macy's or a line out the door at the nail salon or the hair salon, okay? It's going to be extremely slow for quite a long time. And so how are these small businesses going to employ a certain amount of employees when there's no business? So very, very bad for small business. What type of collateral do these banks have? And what happens when these small businesses don't make it? I guess it doesn't matter because the Fed is buying all these loans. It does not matter because the banks aren't on the hook. They're going to get bailed out no matter what. The loans are being bought by the Fed. The banks are going to make a lot of money here, and they are going to put a lot of small business out of business. I think that a lot of these banks will do whatever they have to do to delay the process, basically strangling a lot of these small businesses while the money gets absorbed. They're going to delay a lot of these applications while a certain amount of these businesses get loans. And while they delay it, every day that goes by, more and more of these small businesses will die off. This is going to be purposely done by these banks. Vice.com today. People between the ages of 18 and 34 are being disproportionately affected by this economy. 31% of people in this age group have been laid off or put on temporary leave. And in this article, it was talking about some of these people in here having to break leases or try to break leases in order to move back home because they can't make the lease payment. These people are loaded with debt, credit card debt, student loan debt, auto debt, what have you. Many of these people work in the service sector, which has been hit the hardest. Many of these people paid $40,000, $50,000, $60,000 for a degree to work in hospitality. Massive college tuition debt, credit card debt, and this economy is not going to be easy on them. When things blow over, these people will have even more debt by the time they return. And so a lot of people just think that, when this whole lockdown is over and things open back up, that we're going back to normal. This is going to be the farthest thing from normal we have ever seen. These people who need these $1,200 stimulus checks. And look, I understand most people do, absolutely, no doubt. But I also understand that if you need $1,200 to survive, you are already in very bad shape. You know, if a small business today needs $15,000 to survive, it wasn't going to survive to begin with. I cannot reiterate this enough. I'm not going to blame this economy and what I'm seeing on some infection. I'm blaming this economy on decades of criminality, decades of irresponsibility, money printing, interest rates too low for too long, corporate buybacks, just all the magic tricks they pulled out of the hat to keep this whole thing propped up and going. It's been nothing more than an illusion. And at some point, we are going to pay the piper. Now, again, if people need $1,200, and that's not even enough. They need another $1,200 within 3 months to survive. That's telling you how bad the economy really was, how fragile it really was, how weak the consumer really is. We were being told that the consumer has never been stronger, the economy's never been stronger. This is a lie, and we're finding it out right now. It's being exposed. Small business, weak, fragile. Again, if you need $10,000, $15,000, $20,000 for your small business to survive, it wasn't going to survive. And you know what's killing everything? It's not infections, it's debt. It's debt. If the consumer had money put away, they would weather the storm. If these small businesses had money put away, they would be able to weather the storm. Now, look, I'm not against helping people or helping small business, but this is exposing. I mean, a majority of what we're seeing, millions of people are in bad shape, and apparently a majority of small businesses is in very bad shape also. Things don't even seem real at this point. There's a lot of people out there that say, if oil goes down, it pulls the market down with it. Well, oil was down over 7% today, and it didn't pull the market down. In fact, the Dow Jones was up well over 1,600 points. People tell us that if the 10-year bond yield is below 1%, it's going to be a bad day for Wall Street. Well, bond yield today was around 0.65, 0.67, somewhere in that vicinity. Stock market surged. Dow Jones up well over 1,600 points. Gold up $50 today. Silver up around 85 cents today. Dow Jones surging. Very, very interesting times. Very unpredictable, uncertain times. And now here we have the U.S. government and the banks, literally loan sharks now to small business. Really dangerous times here for America. And it's really almost, again, an assault on Main Street, an assault on small business. And ask yourself, how many small businesses are going to survive this downturn? How many will survive after they get the loans? How many won't get the loans? This is just pure and simple an assault on the American consumer, the American small business. This is certainly, definitely looking like a new America, and it is not going to be good for most of us. So we'll see what happens tomorrow, but I can't stress enough preparation. Make sure you have water and food, security. We are seeing things happen in this country we've never seen before, and there are a lot of people in the world that don't like us. And just as our economy is very fragile, I believe that this country as a whole is very fragile. There's a lot of people that don't like us. Heaven forbid we took some kind of attack in one of our big cities, one of our grids, a cyber attack with our computers. Imagine if millions of people didn't have access to a computer, to their electronic money, to their electronic funds, to their electronic financial institutions. Disaster. I mean, we are literally one event away from this whole thing breaking loose. Look, we're seeing bank runs. We're seeing soldiers on the streets of America. We're seeing people get very worried. And we're seeing volatility in the stock market that we have never seen in the history of the stock market. The Greatest Depression is coming. It's not going to be stopped. We're not going to avoid it. You're not, I'm not. The best we can do is prepare to get through it. And I mean, other than that, I mean, this thing is getting crazy. So buckle up. Very, very bumpy rides coming. And we don't know what tomorrow's going to bring, let alone what next week can bring. But we have a lot of enemies. Not all of them are far away. Many of the enemies are right here in Washington, D.C. They hate America, and you can see it. Make sure you pray for this country. No doubt we're in very dangerous times. Thanks for watching. Please share this video. Give it a thumbs up. Make sure you subscribe. And I look forward to talking to all of you very soon.